All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at exactly 6 o'clock. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Jason Keough,
Here.
Ashley Pasquale,
Here.
Robert Smith,
Here.
Rhonda Smolik, here, Mark Talley,
Here.
Bart Wagner,
Here.
Scott Welty,
Here.
and Garrett McNerney.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to recognize our newest board member, Garrett McNerney. Welcome to the board. Do you want to say anything? Introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Garrett McNerney. Well, what should I say? I'm a senior at the high school, and I'm just excited to be a part of this.
He's way too quiet.
Too quiet? You'll see, I'm just kind of, maybe a little shy at first. Once you get to know me, it's not like that one bit.
Great.
But yeah.
Great, welcome. Okay, so now we will conduct the selection of vice chair. Do you have any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Bart Wagner.
I second that part.
All right.
Got to volunteer.
Any other nominations? Do you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I would accept that.
Okay, then I think, do we need to vote? Okay, so all those in favor of selecting Member Wagner as vice chair, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, congratulations.
Congratulations, Bart.
All right. Now is the time for the call to the public. Did anyone want to speak during this time? Sure, yeah, right. Okay, great. Minutes of the November 28th meeting?
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
I move that we accept the minutes of the last meeting.
thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Zoom, zoom. All right, now it's time for the staff report, please.
Winter camp has been moved to Smoke Tree Elementary to accommodate more children. We're able to accommodate up to 170. Currently, we have 161 registered, and that is up from 96 last year. So definitely a considerable amount more children that can be taken care of over the holidays. Youth basketball registration started today for Little Dribblers, which is for ages 5 to 8 and grades 3 through 6. The Little Dribblers filled very quickly and is already at its max capacity. So we're looking at adding another session for those as well. The Children's Celebration was held on December 10th in Rotary Park and had a record number of kids in attendance. The after-school program during the last 5-week session had the highest amount of registered children since 2008 at 528 children. So definitely moving in the right direction. Approximately 40 volunteers and city recreation staff helped feed over 900 plus at the community dinner last Friday night at the community center. The pool will be open during the Christmas break for open swim from noon to 4, December 27th through the 30th, and then again January 3rd through the 6th. The slide will be closing on January 9th in preparation for demolition and installation of the new slide, which at this time is expected early to mid-March for kind of a grand opening, if everything goes according to plans. Evening classes for water exercise will begin in January. The Stingrays swim team will be hosting a meet on January 20th and 21st. And a couple of upcoming events at the community center. Arizona Collectibles and Firearms Show will be held December 31st and January 1st. There is a Humane Society vaccination clinic on January 7th and a blood drive January 10th through January 12th.
Mr. King, you mentioned the increase in the number of children in the after-school program. Has the staffing been able to keep up with that?
So far, yes.
Okay, that's great. Any questions? All right, thank you.
We'll just roll
Go
right
ahead.
into the
Yeah.
Aquatic Center assessment. I don't have
Okay.
much here, other than we are expecting the design concepts for the lobby, entrance, and parking lot modifications from Architectron by the end of the year. So hopefully that's the next piece of that overall study and puzzle.
Do they have other projects in line after that? Are there phases to the updates?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of the updates really are kind of planned in a 3-year phase windows as budgeting for the overall project goes.
Do you know when, off the top of your head, when the improvements will be made to the bathrooms and how that's the entrance in, and there were some issues with that?
That will come out in this information that we're looking for by the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions on the Aquatic Center assessment update? Okay, thank you. Member Smolik, the Trail Subcommittee report.
Okay. Well, we have a member of the task that was recruited by the Arizona State Committee on Trails. It's referred to as ASCOT, and as a representative to their organization for the Western region, because apparently the Western region is not represented with them right now. She has completed the application and is asking any other trails enthusiasts to do the same. If you or anyone you know is interested, the city has been kind enough to place a link on their website, www.lhcaz.gov, under the heading of Parks and Trails, and it will take you directly to their site and the application. Mr. Geyer, another member, has applied for and is going through the final processes of being a representative of the Off-Highway Vehicle Advisory Group. That group allows the ability to apply for any Arizona OHV grants that may be out there and available. And the group is currently looking for enthusiasts of all kinds. We need outdoor trails people. We need input and support and ideas from cyclists, mountain bikers, equestrians, non-motorized water use, and general hiking trails. What they need are like-minded people to help with establishing and improving existing trails, future trails, and any other issues that have to do with promoting trails in Lake Havasu City. I don't see a lot of them on the trail forks that we looked at. Don't see much on there, but we're trying. There has also been a report of problem with homeless frequenting the area around the skate park and around the Point to Body Beach. We realize this is an ongoing problem, but we have seen cleanup in the area, so we hope this effort is ongoing. And it is the goal of Trails Advisory Committee to discuss how best to prioritize and move forward with existing and future projects in this city. Any volunteers we can get, anybody interested out there, please. We have meetings the second Wednesday of each month. The next one will be January 11th at the Aquatic Center. And if anybody's interested, please get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned Trail Forks.
Is that the right name? It's an app.
Oh, okay. And what time's the meeting on January 11th?
It's at 4:00.
Ah, okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for the update. Okay, so we'll now move on to our public hearings, and the first is on the capital improvement projects, and this will be on Cypress Park Sports Complex and the Dixant Park pickleball courts. Mr. Abbott?
Good evening, Board. I have a few slides here to discuss the status of three specific parks projects. According to the agenda, they may be a little bit out of order here, but we will start with, let's see here. Oh, thank you. The pickleball courts out at Dixant Park. So Elite Sports Builders is our contractor. They are currently moving forward with construction. They have surveyed and they have completed preliminary grading out there at the site. This week, they're actually starting to set up they're establishing the fence poles and digging the foundations for those poles, and they will be establishing the framework for the post-tension slab. The following week, they will actually start setting rebar and planning for a pour later in December. So this project is moving forward. The anticipated completion date is January of 2017, so there's actually a short time frame with constructing these courts. There is the possibility of a potential delay only due to concrete curing time. We don't want to obviously rush that process, and that's dependent upon temperatures. So there is a potential that the courts may not open until later January or maybe early February. That's all dependent upon the concrete curing time, but we don't foresee any issues, so that project is moving forward. Before we move on to the next project, do you have any questions regarding the courts that I may answer? Okay. So the next project that we are working on is the Cypress Park multi-use fields. And currently staff is in the process of reviewing the 90% plans. So what you see before you is a site plan, shows improved parking, shows the potential for concession and restrooms, shows the walking paths and the sidewalks that kind of circulate the fields. Again, the locations and the identifications of the soccer fields are really just a representative example of what could be used or shown in those areas. Again, these are multi-use fields. We did try to design around soccer being a major use out there. You see on the lower field, there's 3 smaller fields. Again, those could be striped in any manner dependent upon the use for that week, that weekend, whatever the need may be. So again, staff is currently in the review process of the 90% plans, and we're moving forward. As we go through this process, what you see here is the ultimate build out. We have every amenity and every accessory shown and included in this park. Doesn't mean when it comes time to build it that we're actually going to be able to do that. And when I say that, I'm referencing, for example, concessions or playground equipment. When it comes down to refining the estimate and the budget, some of those items may have to be pulled out to build the project and meet the current budget that we have. Yeah.
Okay. Was that the end of your presentation for that piece?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. Oh, okay. I'll just ask one and then I'll give someone else a turn. You mentioned the 90% plan. Can you explain what that means when you're reviewing a 90% plan, and then what results from your review? What's the next step?
So 90% is really relative to, I guess, the completeness of the plans. We're saying that they are almost complete, knowing that with staff comment and question, there are going to be some changes involved before we finalize those plans. And then the next step is then moving on to a bid documents, the documents that we're actually going to prepare for an award to a contractor to build. So that's essentially where we're at in the process. Does that answer your question?
It does,
Okay.
yeah. And I don't know if this should be directed at you or someone else. I'm just not hearing when the public review is involved in that process.
Well, typically with capital projects, there isn't necessarily a public review period. However, with the stakeholders' involvement in this project, once we get closer to really understanding the potential issues as far as costs and what items may have to be pulled from the project in order to move forward and meet the current restricted budget we have, we will reach out to the stakeholders that we've been in contact through this process.
Are you able to name who those stakeholders are?
As of right now, we have been in contact with 2 representatives from the soccer league. And so I would continue those discussions with those representatives. Other than the Parks Advisory Board, there currently aren't any other stakeholders that have reached out or shown any interest other than city staff in our normal review process for those projects.
I'm going to see if the other board members have questions.
Yeah.
Member Wagner, Vice
Just-
Chairman Wagner.
Thank you. Just in the completion of this design and everything, what's that schedule going on?
Well, as far as the completion of the
Yeah.
project?
Yep, well, to that point, to start a construction.
Okay, so currently we're on schedule, and the original schedule is to wrap up design in the end of January. Then we'll go through the bidding process, advertisement, that's about 3 months. The goal is to have the fields completed before the following fall season, which is typically the start of the soccer season, and I believe it's early October.
Other questions,
Okay.
comments? Member Smolik.
Wasn't there an issue with the lighting in this park?
Well, does
the
your
past.
90% plan include the lighting?
As part of the design, yes, we are evaluating lighting, and the evaluation of lighting occurs within the parking lot and over the fields. Now again, cost comes into play with this, so we're going to have to make decisions. Do we light the parking lot? Do we light the field? We are finalizing and working with our consultant and suppliers to get some real hard, good numbers that we can apply. We don't want to throw out high-level budget numbers that may eliminate that potential moving forward if there's a more realistic cost there. So it's all being considered.
Does the purchase of that land, is that whatever amount it came out to be, is that getting drawn from the budget that was set aside for this project?
The property was, in fact, the award to move forward and purchase was approved by council last week. The exact dollar amount, I don't know the exact dollar amount, but I believe it was about $1 million. There was 2 different appraisals done on the property. And the money to purchase the property is from the general fund, but it does not have any direct impact on the previous approved budget for the improvements at the park.
Okay.
So that being said, we have $1.5 million budgeted for improvements. We're not going to take the $1 million and only put $500,000 because we purchased the property. We're still planning on moving forward with $1.5 million worth of improvements.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Jeremy, are you going to be involved in this project like you are now? Yes, I currently am involved in this
Okay,
project.
so you'd be like the project manager?
I am an acting project manager on this
Okay.
project, yes.
And the reason I asked that question is I had the privilege of working with Jeremy. Jerry's very, Jeremy is very knowledgeable, very helpful, and um, you explain it very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you aboard.
Other comments or questions before we open up for the public hearing?
I have a question real quick.
Mhm.
You said Cypress Park and then Sports Complex.
I
Is
don't
on
think-
here ABC, or is it Cypress Park Sports Complex?
This is just Cypress Park. I have another slide to talk about the status of the sports park.
Okay.
I guess I just want to make a comment, just, and I was trying to figure out the right wording, because you are obviously very prepared for the questions that we were going to be asking, and so that was great. I think that it would be appreciated to, if the board was involved a little bit more in the planning, and I only say that because that's in the last presentation, that is how the process was explained to us. That there would be time for the public to just comment. As you mentioned, the stakeholders, there are a number of stakeholders with interest in what happens. And it might just be minor things. I think that you seem very well prepared and knowledgeable about what the expectations are for that area. But it might just be minor things, like instead of a concession stand, light another field, or just basic ideas that could be shared during that time.
And I appreciate that. I understand the concern there. And also, it's not necessarily staff's will or desire to make that decision for the public when it comes down to where's the benefit. Sometimes, yes, that it does make sense for us as engineers and staff to make those decisions, but in this case, we will have those conversations.
Okay, great. Yes.
I know a lot of that fits into your schedule and how that happens. What part of this will need to go to the city council for approval of expenditures, or when would that happen?
Well, once we finalize the design and we go through the advertisement process, when we bring forward an award contract to a contractor, that will go to the council.
Okay, so the design would not go as far as...
We're, as part of the council retreat scheduled in early January, these projects are also going to be presented to council. But as far as the actual award of the construction, that will take place at that time.
Other questions on this, and then we'll move on to the sports complex and then open it up for comment. Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
So the sports complex, which we are looking at out at Sarah Park, this is another concept, and I believe you guys were shown a concept that maybe varied from what we're currently looking at. And so essentially we are in the more or less master planning stages of the overall sports complex. This is a huge complex, and one of the major driving factors behind how this park and or this complex is laid out is really due to grading. Grading out there at that site, the cost to grade and traverse, there's, I want to say, over 140 feet of elevation change from the upper level close to where the circle track is to the parking lot on the far west side. So we do have some terraces, and we're trying to lay out the overall sports complex to take advantage of that grade change without increasing the cost of the park so tremendous that we can't afford to actually build anything. So this layout actually shows 4 multi-use baseball, softball fields, and a larger high school level field, which is further west, just north of the 6 multi-use fields. And then we have a total of 8 multi-use soccer fields shown. 2 smaller ones to the south of the Clover layout ball fields, and then you've got the other 6. Now, the number of fields that we're showing here represent what was identified in the fields needs assessment, as far as 6 additional multi-use fields, and then where the baseball and the softball fields are combined as a multi-use ball field. They can be intermixed and used for either sport. So again, this is very high-level conceptual plans. We're just looking at, right now, the main focus is taking advantage of the grades. We're trying to balance out the site and reduce the amount of fill that we may have to bring in, or the amount of grading that we have to do, and also limit any potential need for Army Corps of Engineers permits, or having to deal with the feds on building this sports park. So again, before you, it's just a high-level concept. We've got we will be bringing, once we work out the details on this conceptual plan.
I think your mic shut off. Sorry to interrupt.
Once we work out some of the details on this conceptual plan, we'll start applying dollar figures to this. And again, we're going to have to make some decisions on what comes first, what do we focus on. There may be amenities that just follow as time and budget allows. So there is a substantial amount of money in the current CIP for parks improvements projects and for the Sarah Park Sports Park, sports complex. There's $14 million currently budgeted for this. So, but again, we'll come back to you again as we proceed through this process and we get more refined numbers, and then we can start making some decisions on more detailed refinement as far as layout and or the overall concept.
So is the plan this year this fiscal year, the design phase of it will be done, and then the next fiscal year is when things will start being built? Or is it backed up a little further?
No, actually, this year we're just looking at finalizing the concept.
Okay.
So we want to get through finalizing the concept of Sarah Park. And then going into next year, we'll look at starting the actual physical design. And then depending on timing, we may be able to look at starting some of the construction towards the later part of next fiscal year, and then the majority of it following. Currently, the way that the budget is laid out, we have $4 million next year and $8 million the following year. So the majority of the work is going to be almost three years from, well, 2.5 years from now.
Questions?
4 million and 8 million makes 12 million. What happened to the other 2?
That's this year, right?
That's okay. Correct. So there's 2 million in the CIP this year. 1.5 of it is going towards Cypress. Now, there's also design money for all of these parks. There's construction administration money. So the difference, it goes towards design and construction administration and the planning component. But yes, there is 2 million currently in the budget, but 1.5 million minus the design and the construction management effort is going towards Cypress Park.
Okay, and looking at this concept you have here, it looks like you have 1 baseball field and 4 multi-use fields, either softball or baseball. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
In the design, I'm just wondering what your process is of working with the local leagues or whatever to really identify how this would work for the future, or if these multi-purpose fields, how they would work and scheduling and stuff to know that this is really what you want in a field. Is anything like that in planned?
Well, there's been no discussion regarding scheduling.
Mhm.
That's something that would fall with recreation,
Right.
but
And the only reason I say that, we can, this looks very nice and maybe real usable, but is it really going to fit the needs? And you really don't know that until you say, hey, these groups are going to use it this way, these groups are going to use it this way. This is going to work,
right.
type thing. And I just think those discussions are worthwhile if they haven't been, but to have that opportunity for those groups to do that. And then maybe as also to maybe look at some other communities and see how they've used multi-purpose fields and how successful they've been in those communities too.
Yeah, the purpose behind the multi-use fields, as it relates to the ball fields in this case, out of the fields needs assessment, that was identified as a potential solution, and also saves on cost. Obviously, we get more potential use for those fields than we would if we were building all separate softball and all separate baseball fields.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Okay, so we'll open it up to the public. Come on up. And please just state your name.
Hi, my name is Holly Balderrama, and I'm coming as a representative from the Soccer Association. I'm on the board for soccer, and I'm a parent and a coach. So, for the soccer, the thing I wanted to let you guys know, I talked to Nick Jones. He's our president, and he's the one that's been spearheading a lot of the stuff that we can bring to help you guys build this. I just texted him, and if we need to, the city or the soccer league can build the concession stand part of it. We've been raising money for a few years to help build these fields. We just need to know, I think the bottom line I want you guys to know is we need to know what we can do to help you guys. Lighting's an issue. I've been talking to a couple of members on the council, and they said that we would prefer for the lights not to be put on the elementary schools. That was one of the solutions. We would prefer them to actually be at the soccer field. That's where we would get the most use for it, is to have it here. So if we had a choice. Also, there are grants out that we can apply for to help with the lighting situation, and we wanted you guys to be aware of that. Part of the holdup for the soccer league in helping fund this was we didn't have an address. We didn't have a place to go. So if you guys need help, please contact Nick Jones. Has all of the information, and he's at a soccer practice right now, or he would be here. So I have some of it, and I can get more of it if you need to. But I know that we do have the money for a concession stand. So if that needs to be taken off so that we can have all the lights or whatever, we can do that. And there is grant money we can get for lighting. So, because like I said, we've been raising money for this. We are so excited. Thank you. So, I also live on the street, and I know that I live by SU too. Those lights are usually off at night, so I don't know if there's been any complaints. I don't see anybody on my street having too many complaints about lighting issues. I've heard that that's been something brought up, but I know everybody that lives on the street. I have 2 empty lots. I have 3 snowbirds. There's 3 families. There's 2 houses that are practically empty all the time. I don't even know who's there. So I think all of us would be pretty much okay with those lights. Plus, they do go off at a reasonable hour for that. As far as when we moved our soccer league, we do start it earlier now. These fields would get a lot of use. We start the older kids in August so that they have time to practice before the high school starts. We kind of get them in shape, get them used to playing soccer again. And then we run our main rec league with the younger groups starting in the October timeframe, and then that will run through December. Now, for the rest of the year, we do offer club ball now. And so basically, our league runs soccer from August until June. We will stop for July and August because, number one, it's hot. And also for our research, we have found out that the athletes do need some time off. You need a couple of months just to break and not to reduce injuries. So we are aware of that. So we have chosen the July and August timeframe to take a break. Otherwise, we will be running soccer on the fields for that whole entire time. And it's not just 1 or 2 teams. We started off with only 3 teams, and now we have 7 travel teams. We start at U10, and then we work all the way up. I'm the coach for the U17 group. So increase, we are hoping to have even multiple teams in those brackets going to tournaments with us. So,
Holly, so you are in agreement that you need the lighting
yes, we
on
need
the
the lighting.
entire fields?
And here's why. The problem we're having is we can't offer practice times during school sessions. And a lot of our younger kids, we have 750 kids signed up for just the league right now, and it's getting dark so early, we have to wait for parents to get off work. Well, they don't get off work until 5 or 5:30. So a lot of our little kids, we try have praying practice starting at 4, but a lot of us don't start practice till 5:30, and we are really tight on space now because we need the lighting. We need to be able to see out there. And that was one reason why the city was thinking about lighting up the elementary schools and all of that. But I talked with Nick, and if we had a choice, you know, if it's either one or the other, we'd prefer for it to all be at Cypress, so we can light all up that. Then we have ASU will still let us use their fields until they decide to turn them into parking lots. That's been threatened to us multiple times. That's been some of our, like, we really need soccer fields because they're wanting to take those away. And so this is a great, you know, until then, we're going to use both of them because we just have that many people that we need out on the fields, especially in the evenings.
Yeah, we realize the necessity, and that's why we're all here, but that's the concern that we here as a group are totally in agreement that that whole field needs to be lit.
Yeah, that's what we would like, and that's the other reason why we wanted to make sure somebody could come tonight to let you know where you know, we can come up with the concession money to build a concession stand, and probably if we need to, build a playground, you know what I mean? We can come up with something, and we're here to help support you guys in that. If you need something, please reach out to us, because I know that we have avenues where we can go supplement things, and I think you've probably been talking with Nick. Have you been talking with Nick? So he's in charge with Nick, but apparently it's not been brought to everyone's attention, so I thought I'd come and let you guys know we have avenues in which we can help with this project because it's very important to us as well. So we're very passionate about our sport and we want it to go, go, go. So, any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the 3 projects? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Welcome aboard, man.
Our next public hearing is a discussion on the trail project priorities.
Everyone received in your packet a letter from the Trails Advisory Committee and their recommendations moving forward, and the 3 projects that they would like to recommend that the city does pursue a little bit more heavily, as well as to throw some funding towards. They would be completing the design and construction at Piccadilly Point, starting planning, design, and construction documents to connect the Shoreline Trail to Kingsview with the Kingsview condos and the Sunset Trail, start the planning, meeting, and needing approval with all the controlling agencies to develop a shoreline trail from Rotary Park to the Water Safety Center. They recommended a dollar figure in there. I don't know that we really need to worry about the dollar figure. I think what I'm looking for out of this board is whether or not these projects would be what you would like for me to recommend forward as well. That the projects would be your recommendation of where the trails should pursue moving forward, or there are some other options you would like to see there as far as the connectivity being more the next phases. Trails, you know, up around the washes, such as an example of constructing something similar to what Pima Wash is, just through some different areas of the city for connectivity. So that's kind of where that letter lies as far as information to you guys and what your thoughts were and recommendations might be.
Are those put in a priority, 1, 2, 3, or one of the 3 projects, or all 3 at the same? What are those, and how are those on the list?
I don't want to speak for the Trails Advisory Committee. as far as I've already made some contacts to the Lake Havasu State Park as to what would their interest be in continuing that trail. Obviously, Lake Havasu State Park is a fee park. You do have to pay to get in there, whether or not you're walking, bicycling, doing anything in the park. So there is some concern there. They are talking with the administration in Phoenix of is there a way to make that work where that trail still could be connected. So we are already moving a little bit forward on that project. The Piccadilly Point project is moving along. We are still waiting or still looking to state lands for that property. And then the last one is obviously a long-term project that will involve many, many agencies to really get that project up and running. So I think there may be a little out of order, but go 213.
The one question I have though is, it amazes me that the state would be opposed to people walking, considering that our boat launch and ramps there is one of their number one money makers. That it would offset having somebody walk through for a $2 or $3 fee.
I don't want us to speak for the state parks.
I'm just voicing my opinion.
Question, and I don't know if maybe you can get that, or maybe Mark can help as well. The ADOT signing that was going to go into town, I'm just wondering if there's something that could go along with that signing project that would help sign trails. Or is trails in that project?
The wayfinding effort required a honing down of the list that was originally suggested by the CVB. So we really didn't get into those kinds of specifics on State Route 95. It had to be very general, Rotary Park, London Bridge, those kinds of things. One of the things I think that might be appropriate is obviously we can do anything we want to on our city streets once we decide where we want to go with the wayfinding that way. The other thing is I think which would be effective would be some kind of effort to have, if you will, mini wayfinding signage on the walkways themselves. For example, we just completed a cooperative effort with In-N-Out where they paid for a Ramada and things and amenities right across from the In-N-Out alley right there. And as I'm sitting there thinking, we've got a sidewalk connection to the multi-use path. If you're sitting here, you don't have any idea that you can walk up and down the multi-use path for 7 or 8 miles, that you can walk down to the London Bridge Resort and go through the parking lot and be onto the island through the London Bridge, that you can go to Pima Wash and go up, down. So what I'm thinking we may want to consider, and this may be something the board wants to think about and maybe make suggestions, would be some kind of signage that you had. It's going to be way beyond our sign efforts because it's going to have to be fairly concise trail signage, but it really does need to somehow tie in all those trail opportunities, because I think that's really when someone's walking along the channel, if they then know you can walk up Pima Wash by going a little bit further up Rotary Park, or you can do these things. I think that will be much more effective, because the CVB does actually have a significant trail listing that kind of gets you started, if you will, and that would be a way to handle that. So I think that's really probably where we need to head, is somehow those efforts that way.
That's just what I wanted to bring up as maybe something to look at, or as something that we felt that that signing might be needed. And like I say, it may be nice to match it with the signing that's going to go in place for the wayfinding.
Also at the Trail Advisory Committee meeting last time, there were a lot of conversation of trail maps and how to overlay some of the different maps that we already have to identify where those trails are located currently.
So do you think that is behind the 3 priorities as well? If the plan was drawn out, that would be included in it?
Correct.
So are we as a board what are your thoughts on the priorities that they have identified, recommendations they'd like to make?
What order are they? These are little dots. These aren't numbers.
I put them in 2, 1, 3.
Oh, one of us is on.
There you go.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Unfortunately, the author of this letter is not here to speak. So we're supposing that, yes, 1, 2, and 3 would be 2, 1, and 3. Excuse me. We're working kind of on two different things. The budget money is for hopefully getting started and planning for these areas. Also, the big push, which is not a monetary issue at this point in time, is the 100 premier trails. So these are two different things, but yes, starting the planning and design and construction for state parks for shoreline trails would be a good place to start, since that is one of the trails we wish to put on the 100 premier trails.
A question on that. What, are we just looking at the where the bridge walkway ends to where?
Their trail starts just inside of there, really. In all reality, you can join up in the beach and start on their trail. So it's a very short piece that we'd be talking about.
Probably to get to their sidewalk would not be too much distance. So is that something your thought is that the city would construct on their property, or?
That would be a conversation with state parks as far as who's funding that, how's that that running. The initial letter was just sent out of, would you guys even entertain the idea of us, thinking about connecting the path because it is a fee area.
And then I like maybe see a 4, but just to have on there of maybe providing signing to existing trails that we do have.
Do we have any members from the public that wanted to speak on this topic? So as a board, do we want to make a recommendation for the 3, and if we're all in favor of adding the 4th of providing signage to existing trails, I'm making that recommendation for staff and council to consider.
I know the timing on this is short because of when they're going to retreat, but I think maybe we need to have a little bit more information to present to the council, because right now it's just kind of, I feel that we need just a little bit more specificity. Is that a word? But
And Rhonda, I think there is a misconception of what the retreat really is. We're not, this retreat is sitting down with council and really planning out what is the city going to look like at build out. It's some education process to council. How many police stations do we need at 96,000 people? How many fire stations will we need? How much more infrastructure? Do we have the water system in place, the sewer system in place for 96,000 people? So it's a little bit more of the planning that for recreation and the metrics of, at a town of 50,000 people, we have one swimming pool. In a town of 96,000 people, do we need another swimming pool? Do we need another recreation center? What does that also mean then staff-wise? So it's a little bit more of an education piece to council. We're not actually sitting down and crunching numbers as far as the budget end goes. That'll come a little later in January and into February. I don't have to, well, staff doesn't have to have budget numbers turned in until early March, and at the latest, the budget is not approved until June 27th. So we do still have some time working with those numbers.
Then wouldn't placement of the trails or where we want the trails to go, signage of those trails and so forth, would that be something that they would need to consider? Because I know we talked about setting aside areas for, we're gonna, I forget exactly what it was, but it was like a 10-foot easement instead of a 5-foot easement to put a sign in or something of the sort.
I think as far as for the retreat, it's the conceptuals of having the connectivity throughout the city being important, and not necessarily nailing down the specifics of how that is done.
Okay, all right.
I also think that having some of at least the priorities, as the committee has identified, so that the work in providing more of the specifics can start. Is that fair to
Yes, very fair to say.
request? Okay.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Was this put together by one member of the board?
It was
Or your
reviewed by
group?
all.
Okay, so it was reviewed by everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little soon to be putting in front of the retreat, or a little late, I should say. I don't think this is something that needs to go in front of the retreat. I think it needs to be put on the back burner and reviewed a little bit more and prioritized in the way it should be, hopefully done and funded and finished. So that's my opinion.
Member Wagner?
I think what these say is, though,
Flashing.
the advisory committee is very interested in the shoreline trail. And it seems like that are the items here that are top priority. So if the council was to say, hey, what is the priority? I think it's the development of the shoreline trail.
And are we all in consensus with that? Okay. Yes.
Hopefully, we'll be able to have something at the next meeting to show you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think this is great. There were multiple projects, and so this really narrows it down to, and it's workable, and I think it's great. Any other comments on the trail project priorities? Okay, thank you. So now we're on future agenda items. Suggestions. Member Swank?
Maybe we could put the priorities for the trails on there. Hopefully, we'll be able to have, we will be able to have something for you at least to look at and consider.
Okay. The fields update.
We can definitely request that. It might be a very small update depending on where it's at in the project, but we can definitely request it.
Any other requests? Yes.
Yeah, so kind of along what we were talking about with trails, I'd kind of like a better understanding of how, I know I've read a lot in the last, well, over the last several months or maybe the last couple of years about all of the players here. So the state, the federal government, and the city and the county. And it seems like a lot of the projects we're discussing here we've been kind of stuck in the mud as far as how we work together. So maybe can we get an explanation, or I mean maybe like a tutorial on where we stand, like how much of this stuff can we actually influence, and how the process kind of works? Is that I think could help me.
Yes.
What's the name of the lady that works with the city that's dealing with all the trails and streets and transit and all of that? Yeah, because that's something that she's involved in too, right? I think that we should ask to have Jean come and speak to us.
Great.
Okay? Can we ask to have Jean come and speak to us? Give us a presentation of what is happening in our community, because she knows it all. And if she doesn't, she knows somebody.
I don't know if this is an agenda item, so if it is, that'd be great. If not, that's fine. Um, with all the exciting things going on, especially with the capital improvement projects in the fields, it would be great to have more of a public input process as those plans move forward before plans are finalized. Just like I said earlier, to hear maybe some ideas that staff or the one contact or the couple of stakeholders might not think about. But it is exciting and it's great, and so having an update on it, as much as possible would be great, and having the ability to gather some additional input would also be appreciated. Okay, other agenda items? Everyone, how about New Year's resolutions? Okay. And our next meeting?
Our next meeting will be January 23rd.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, one opposed. Thank you.